Lingua Brutalica is a podcast that uses ethnographic interviews to study language use in the extreme metal community. We are studying a music scene known for its love of themes and topics generally considered offensive, and it is likely that some episodes will touch on topics or opinions some listeners may find tasteless or ethically problematic. Ethnographic researchers aim to adopt the interviewee's point of view so that we can draw out and study the attitudes, beliefs, and practices that are important to them. We want to make it clear that in presenting these conversations here, we do not endorse any of their content. Our aim is to explore the thought processes behind language use in this long-running, international, and yet understudied scene. Hi, and welcome back to Lingua Brutalica with me, Jess Crook, and my co-host, Wes Robertson.
Oh, hi.
On this wonderful episode, we have with us today, James McBain of Hellripper. Thank you for coming on.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me on. Much appreciated.
We appreciate you coming on. So to start out, as kind of we normally do, just how would you describe Hellripper's music to someone that hasn't heard it before? What kind of genre of metal would you say it falls under, and why?
I would say I would describe it as kind of black speed metal. That's kind of the best description. There's loads of other influences and stuff in there and different elements, but yeah, it's easy just to say black speed metal or black thrash metal or any of those, any combination of those.
I think that's the first time maybe that someone's introduced the genre of their music and it be the exact same label that's used on Encyclopedia Metallum. So congrats for that. Maybe like you can tell us like when you first started kind of developing this band, like is that the kind of style that you were kind of already into, or was there a particular kind of reason that you gravitated towards like developing music in this style for, you know, your own purposes?
Yeah, so back I kind of started things when I was what year would it be? Yeah, when I was about maybe 18 or something. I was looking to form a band. You know, I'd played with I jammed with friends and all of that when I was in school, and we had never, as most people who are trying to form bands would agree with, it's very difficult to find a drummer or a vocalist. And so after like years of trying, and I played in punk bands, you know, with friends, and we played some shows, I was really into black speed metal punk. It's my favorite kind of music. Bands like Toxic Holocaust and Venom, Sodom, Creator, any of that kind of stuff. And I didn't know anyone that was into the same music as me, let alone that wanted to play it or be in a band in that style. So yeah, I decided just to try and do everything on my own. I wanted to release something, and I thought if I waited to find members, then I would probably never get anything done. So I decided just to go for it, try it on my own, learn as I went along, just record everything in my bedroom at home. To answer that question, the goal was to do black speed, black thrash, like I said. Basically at the start it was kind of a lot less complex, you know, it was kind of straightforward punk influenced black thrash, black speed, whatever. And over the years, as I've grown like more confident in songwriting, and as I've developed more influences, as I've improved at songwriting, as I've improved at recording, improved at my instrument, I've tried to incorporate, you know, more elements from different genres and different ideas, and try and make things sometimes a little bit more complex. Not always. It's sometimes fun just to go back to basics and do things that way. But yeah, it's basically just trying to put everything that I like and everything that inspires me into this one package that just so happens to be kind of fast metal at its core.
So when you were kind of exploring these genres early on, were you kind of doing it alone? You said you didn't know many people that were into the same music.
Yeah, so everything is still done by myself. So yeah, it was just a matter of, I lived in Aberdeen up in Scotland, and at the time I was like getting into this, I think maybe 17 or something. So I wasn't allowed to go to some shows, because of the age restrictions, and so I wasn't really a part of my music scene, and I didn't really know many people. I had like a couple of friends at school that were into metal, but either not the style that I wanted to play, or they didn't play drums, or they didn't, share my ideas or whatever. And so, I just out of necessity, really, I did it. I decided to do things on my own. If I had the choice, I would have had a full band, but in hindsight, I'm glad because, I've been in bands and I've do this on my own, and I much prefer working this way. It's a lot easier for me. It's a lot more, it's all my ideas. I don't need to adhere to other people's schedules. I don't need to, wait for other people to do things. I don't need to do things that I don't want to because the other people want to. Just there's no arguments, or you would think there's no arguments. So it's just an easier process for me, just doing everything by myself, just kind of being at home, writing, recording whenever I want, at my own pace. If I want to release things really quickly, I can. If I want to take a break for 10 years, I can. And it won't affect anyone else, for example.
So is there anything in particular about like black and speed metal specifically that attracted to you? Like, is there a reason why you've gravitated towards those styles as opposed to, death metal, let's say?
I love death metal as well, but I don't know. I've always loved thrash metal. That's my favorite style of music. I got into metal really with Metallica and Megadeth. So I guess that kind of started things off, and then I got into just as I was growing up and getting into metal. It was around the time where there was the kind of the thrash revival and the new wave of traditional metal were going on. So as I was growing up, the bands that were gaining popularity were like Havoc, Warbringer, Evil, Gamma Bomb, Steel Wing, Enforcer, all this kind of stuff, like kind of, heavy metal, most of it fast metal and stuff. So I got into it as I was kind of, just developing my taste, I think. And something about the kind of first wave of black metal kind of inspired stuff appealed to me because it was very, it was a lot less complex than a lot of thrash metal, even like bands like Metallica and Megadeth and things like that it's quite demanding, some things are quite technical and difficult to play. And a lot of the bands that I liked were, Toxic Holocaust, Midnight, stuff like that, where it's a little more, a little less complex to play. It's very straightforward, more punk influence, like I mentioned. And I still am not, but I wasn't the greatest guitar player or anything, especially at the time. And so it appealed to me that you could do things without being as good as Dave Mustaine or Jeff Waters, for example, at guitar. Especially in terms of lead guitar. I was never a lead guitarist. And when I heard some of these bands, either the guitar solos were quite basic or there were no guitar solos, which was appealing to me because I thought you needed loads of guitar solos. You need to be technically proficient. You need to be amazing, at the instrument. So I think, that appealed to me, the kind of DIY nature of it as well. A lot of it is recorded in people's rooms or home studios or whatever. And a lot of it is just one-man bands as well. Like I mentioned, Toxic Holocaust, Midnight, Bathory, and you've got Dark Throne, who are the two of them, and they kind of do everything DIY as well. So yeah, a lot of just everything in the genre kind of appealed to me, and it was it just made me think I can do this. You can do it, regardless if you're amazing or the best instrumentalist ever or whatever.
So far you've been talking primarily about, the sonic qualities of these genres and like the difficulty. Did you have any interest in, or did you pay any attention to what the lyrics were of these bands at the time you're getting into them?
Not so much. I'm trying to think. I mean, I think I always kind of like the dark. Usually it's a lot of the more black metal side of things. A lot of it is kind of more, extreme, kind of over the top, kind of horror type stuff, which I'm a fan of. I like the kind of over the top imagery and stuff like that. I guess it kind of lyrically, I guess I'm kind of more, I like the death metal stuff with a horror influenced stuff. But yeah, most music is the music is usually the biggest appeal to me. With lyrics kind of play I don't want to say secondary role, but I think having a good song first is the most important, and then you can fit the lyrics around that.
And so, even if lyrics are considered more secondary to the music for you, do you think you have a sense of like what makes for like good lyrics and bad lyrics on a kind of general sense? I don't know if I think anything can kind of work. Again, music is so, subjective. So it's just what appeals to you as a person, I think. I mean, some of the lyrics I like, are very simple, very, I get bad, but they're catchy. They're just, they roll off the tongue well. They fit the song, so I think it really depends. I mean, you can, it just really depends on the overall vibe for me. If the lyrics fit the song, and if the lyrics, they don't need to be like genius. And I'm for sure, I'm no Danny Filth or whatever. Like, I'm not a great lyric writer, I would say. I just try and write what I think works for the song. I do try and make the lyrics interesting, or a little bit different or something. But yeah, sometimes it is fun just to kind of go, back to basics and just over the top kind of nonsense. Yeah. Well, how about, can we ask specifically about like what would make for like lyrics that would, be, I guess, less appealing to you? Like, if anything can potentially be appealing, like what would be like the kind of qualities of lyricism that you would find kind of, I guess, a turn off?
Yeah, well, you mentioned fitting, like what would make it not fit?
Yeah, so a lot of, I'm kind of very like rigid in the way I do things. If you like look at my vocal patterns and stuff like that, so usually kind of everything kind of has to rhyme. Everything kind of has to be in a certain kind of fit a certain like rhythm or whatever, like to go with the song. So I've never been turned off by like any lyrics, like just because of how they're like written. Other than if it's like, ridiculous Nazi stuff, I'm not gonna listen to that shit. But in terms of kind of like in general, it's mostly like I like things to rhyme in a certain way. I like things to it's just weird in my mind, like the way it's just whether it works in my mind or not. It's very difficult to kind of use a generalization of what would appeal or not appeal. It's just, when I hear it, I'll think, oh, that's great, or that doesn't quite work or something.
So given that you write all the music for Hellripper, how do you approach your own lyric writing as part of this process? Like, how do you balance lyric writing against all the other creative processes necessary to create your music?
Yeah, so usually the music is written kind of first, and I don't start lyrics until like everything is recorded, basically. That kind of gives me, but because then everything's kind of set in stone, or basically set in stone, and then I can write the lyrics around the music. I have tried writing lyrics before everything was done in the past, but yeah, things change with the music, or sometimes, you have to, the lyrics don't quite fit, like I mentioned, so you've got to kind of change things, etc. So yeah, usually when everything is done musically is when I kind of start writing lyrics. However, I usually have like an idea of a song title, or maybe a chorus idea, or, just some small idea that I want to include with the vocals, with the lyrics. And I kind of have that in the back of my mind. And, the process is it really depends on the song, I guess. But yeah, usually there's a song title or a chorus idea to kind of base the lyrics around as well, so while I'm writing a song, I'll have the music for the chorus, for example, and then I'll have the idea for the chorus there, and then I'll know what the song is about, if I'm making any sense there. And then once everything is done, everything else gets added, so that things can fit properly.
So before we dive into your lyrics more specifically, there's something we kind of always ask in this podcast, which is where do you kind of stand on the debate or the, style in metal, where if extreme metal lyrics should be viewed as kind of escapist fantasy and entertainment, or if they're like a true reflection of the artist's own views, politics, and identities. You have lyrical themes that include, things like evil, death, black magic, Satanism, anti-Christianity. Is this just representing of the theme of, Hellripper with hell in the name? Or are these themes and stories meant to connect with your personal beliefs, opinions, or issues in the real world at all?
Yeah, it's just to go with the music, really, for me. I know there are people that, have their lyrics are a true reflection of like their beliefs or whatever. But for me, like I say, I'm more of a music orientated person. So the lyrics kind of, I don't like saying come secondary, because they are an important part of the song, but the music is the most important to me, and then the lyrics kind of fit the music for me. So I think black speed metal, the music that Hellripper plays, works well with dark lyrics or horror movie type lyrics, or just the darker side of things lyrically. So yeah, for the most part, it doesn't represent me as a person. But yeah.
So I mean, not to be like, I don't believe you or anything like that, but I'm just curious. There is a lot of discussion in your lyrics, as we'll get into, about bad things happening in churches, bad things happening to Christians specifically. Does this not in any way reflect any kind of personal tint towards religion? Or
I mean, I'm not a fan of religion. I mean, I'm just not a fan of religion, but I get it's black metal. It's the kind of, being influenced by, like I mentioned, bands, Venom, Toxic Holocaust, and whatever. Like if you read some of their lyrics, it's extreme, just, over the top. Again, it's kind of like horror movie style, just over the top. It's just, sometimes it's just really fun to write over the top, ridiculous stuff.
Well, that leads on quite nicely to an opening question we had prepared for your analysis of your lyrics, because we wanted to talk generally about your satanic, occult, and anti-Christian themes. Because while on the one hand, these are probably some of the more well-recognized lyrical themes associated with the metal genre at large, we haven't actually spoken to anyone before you who consistently integrated these themes into their lyrics. So we wanted to ask, beyond just the kind of relationship that you see between your music style and these kinds of themes, is there anything else that has kind of led you to use these themes and make them the center point of your lyrical content?
To be honest, not so much. Again, I think at the start, I was very, very much kind of trying to figure out what I was doing. So if you listen musically, lyrically, like I mentioned before, it's a bit, the music and stuff, everything's a bit less complex. Some of the lyrics, they're very kind of basic, which is what I was going for, but also I was kind of just, figuring out how to write songs and figuring out how to, just figuring out how to do everything. And I think if you kind of go through everything in chronological order, things become a bit more, I kind of found my way, learned, improved it kind of in most aspects. And so you see things getting a bit more, I don't want to say experimental, but a bit more different, a bit different to, I'm exploring some different things, and musically there's more influences coming in. The songs get a bit longer. If you even look at the lyrics and things, like each line is a bit longer, there's more lyrics on every track. And so, as I've gone kind of over the years, I've kind of tried to develop my own kind of, I don't want to say niche, but my own kind of, personality, I guess. And so with the latest album, and even some songs from the previous releases, though not as prominent as the latest album, I've kind of tried to explore the darker side of Scottish stuff, which is something that relates to me a little bit more, with the being from Scotland, of course, and kind of adding the Hellripper twist on the kind of darker side of Scottish folklore or Scottish events, for example, like taking things like the Nuckelavee and stuff, these creatures and stuff from Scottish folklore and all that kind of stuff. So I am trying to, develop a bit more, make things a little more interesting lyrically, because as much as I love being over the top and ridiculous, there's only a certain, there's only a certain amount of times you can write an over the top track about Satan rising and killing everyone and stuff. So I do try and do things a little bit differently now.
Well, we'll put a pin in that Scottish discussion, because we have quite a number of questions about that. But there's one song that kind of, I guess, like, for me, reading your discography, even there's definitely been a change as you said, but it generally seems like you do kind of focus on this kind of medievalish, maybe fantasy framing, where everything's kind of like pre-modern and dark and gritty in that way. But there's one song in your discography which doesn't do that, and that's from the 2016 compilation Complete and Total Fucking Mayhem, where you have the song Nuclear Hell. And this one, with lines like "Atomic power signals the end of us all," is clearly set in the modern day. Was this song one that stood out to you when you made it? As in, like, did it feel experimental? And given that none of your work since then has been clearly set in, like, I don't know, horrors that exist in 2023, is it an experiment that you were kind of unhappy with the results of?
No, that one was, like I mentioned again, a lot of my influences, for example, Toxic Holocaust. That's basically their whole thing, like the nuclear war thing, and a lot of D-beat bands, Swedish D-beat, and just punk in general, crust bands, I guess, kind of focused on those themes. And that was one of the songs from early on, I guess. It was probably one of the first 10 written or something, I can't remember. And so I didn't really have the evil, the satanic, all that kind of stuff. I didn't really have that as the thing yet for Hellripper. And so I thought, let's try something a bit different. I'll write a track influenced by, another topic. And it was just, I think it's a cool song. It's just not I think I found the kind of themes that I wanted to explore with Hellripper kind of afterwards. I just kind of decided to focus on that. That's basically it. It wasn't really that I had a problem with it or anything. It was just that I think the other stuff suited me better and suited the music better.
All right. So, many of the Australian bands we've interviewed thus far have kind of actually specifically mentioned a disinterest in kind of the evil and satanic themes. And we've, had people suggest that stuff's kind of old hat. Are you aware of these kind of perceptions? Like, do they affect your approach to these themes in your lyrics? Do you ever feel pressure to do kind of evil satanic things in a new way, or like any worry that it comes off, like a bit archaic given where the genre's kind of been moving these days?
Yeah, I see a lot of people, saying, "Oh, it's played out, everyone's done it." But it's what I like, so I don't really care. And I mean, the music, especially in the early days, like I keep mentioning, was very back to basics and very kind of not attempting to be something new. I wasn't. I'm not like a prog experimental whatever kind of band. It's kind of black speed metal, thrash metal, punk, very kind of in your face kind of stuff. And so the lyrics kind of it's what I wanted to do. It's what I thought fit the music, and so that's what I did. However, once you get to the new album, I did, not through pressure from anyone else or anything, just out of kind of wanting to try something new myself, is why I brought the Scottish element in, to just do something different, I guess. Like I said, there's only so much that there's only so many times you can say the same thing or say similar things, And so, I wanted to bring in something different just because I thought it would be, would be good. I thought it'd be a little challenge, to kind of bring in the Scottish theme, but kind of stay within the Hellripper, kind of style. I'm even with the new album, it's still the same thing, just in a Scottish context, really. So, I am aware of people, and people tell me, like, oh, this is boring, the Satanism kind of stuff. But I don't care. It's fun.
Well, beyond these kind of broader themes that we've already discussed, we also noticed that your lyrics commonly reference blood and gore. So including lines like, "We bring you the newborn, the sweet, sinful blood, and we drink the life straight from its throat. I bleed before the congregation as I devour the light. The sudden flood of virgin blood decorates their blades. The candles burn bright in the shadow of gore, and the burnt remains of missing children are soaked in orange light. Nocturnal acts of savage torture fill the creature's lust." On top of this, I found about 44 instances of bleed or blood across your 3 albums, with the vast majority just appearing on the album The Affair of Poisons. So whilst the appearance of blood and gore may not be surprising in songs about black magic, satanic rituals, we did find it interesting that across these references to bloody gore, you don't actually describe the blood and gore in a lot of graphic detail. Instead, it's more like you're just noting that it's part of the scene that you're kind of describing. So why do you think you've approached blood and gore in this particular way? And was this like a kind of conscious choice for you, or is this just, kind of come out more organically from how you've, approached the songwriting more generally?
It just came out organically. I've never really thought about it, to be honest, but I think it's just the way that the kind of songs go. They're very fast. They're very, especially the earlier stuff, they're very short, and so there's not really time to kind of give in-depth descriptions. If the song is 2 minutes long or whatever, then it's very difficult to kind of progress the story. the track, if there's only like say 8 lines or whatever in the song, it's very difficult to kind of stop and give more detailed descriptions. But again, like I mentioned, with the later stuff, it's a bit more, with the songs kind of increasing in length and in differing in like the speeds and things like that, things get a bit more descriptive, I guess you could say. But yeah, it's just when you it's funny hearing your lyrics read out. But yeah, it's just kind of what comes naturally, you know. And of course, blood and gore, it's very metal, and so that's got to appear regularly, I guess.
Is there a line, like, have you ever written something you're like, oh, I went a bit too far there, that was a bit too gory, that was a bit too detailed, a bit too graphic?
I don't think so. I think most of the things are. Nah, I think it's all been relatively fine. Yeah.
No, I mean, like, I don't, like, not asking if you think you've crossed the line, but like, is there a line that could be crossed? Like, could you go too far with the gore? Could you go too far with the descriptions? Is there like a place where if you went there, you would probably find yourself pulling back, hypothetically?
Yeah, I think so. I think it depends on the context. I think, I try and kind of make things kind of horror movie based. I don't want to, it's not, too much. It's not too realistic, if you know what I mean. There are a lot of bands, say like, in like some of the extreme brutal death metal genres who kind of go a bit too far with the realism for me. That I'm not a fan of. It's a bit. Yeah, I mean that's what those genres are. I mean, so fair enough. But yeah, that's not my kind of thing. I like to try and have things in a. Yeah, if it could be like a horror movie, that's what I want. I'm not a big fan of kind of making things too realistic and making people, I guess, being like, say, offensive or being very, very extreme just to kind of shock and stuff like that, especially nowadays. Maybe back when like death metal and stuff was like first a thing, it worked, but I think that kind of thing is just kind of, it's not my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Well, another kind of motive that we noticed along many of your songs is the reference to women or feminine figures, either like within part of the song or kind of as a metaphor. For instance, in the song From Hell, you open with, I am the mutilator, I'll cut the bitch and watch her die. The affair of poisons begins with the child is ripped from the room of the whore. Beyond the covenant walls has repeated lines, fornicator, sacrilegious bitch with the serpent in her eyes. The song Blood Orgy of the She-Devils delivers the same refrain as the title. Spectres of the Blood Moon Sabbath describes the coven bark, the matriarch anoints the staff of flight, and the hissing marshes focus on a seductress infernal as she twists into form. Then Poison Womb describes, of course, the title and also the Black Majesty matriarch. And you have song titles like Necro Slut on some of your earlier work. And then you also have 2 songs that explicitly reference a woman from history, as the song Demdike is about one of the Pendle witches tried in England in 1612. And the song Annalise describes Annalise Michel, a woman who underwent 67 exorcisms. And additionally, there are 6 distinct songs on your last 2 albums that reference wombs, 11 instances in total. And although, of course, wombs aren't like the exclusive possession of women, they often are collocated with women and used as sort of a metaphor for the feminine. So I guess, why do feminine figures and physical attributes appear so frequently as a theme throughout your lyrics?
Yeah, so I think quite a few of the ones you mentioned there are based on either like you say, like true events or whatever, or films in some form. So the Affair of the Poisons is based on the historical French event of the same name. From Hell is based on Jack the Ripper. I can't remember what else there. Poison Womb is based on the last person to be imprisoned under the the Scottish Witchcraft Act for fraudulent claims. So a lot of it is kind of based on, actual events or actual people or inspired by films. And a lot of the themes, are that I like to explore are like witchcraft and things. And so naturally kind of the female like perspective or female is referenced because of that, the witchcraft thing, I think is something that interests me just because of, just in the past, how extreme things were, how people's beliefs could affect society in such a way, and how people were imprisoned and tortured, and how people were treated just because of, people's beliefs and people's fears and things like that. I think that's kind of interesting to kind of explore. And you can also frame that in a horror context. I mean, it's a brutal theme in itself, but you can also make it more theatrical, depending on how you do it. Just that's basically it. For example, for that, it's not really it's a conscious decision, but it's not really a conscious decision to kind of go in that, to reference that kind of thing. It's just what, I think just kind of what fits the music, and it's a theme that works for the lyrics, I guess. And it's, just a coincidence that it's, that.
Well, along similar lines, we kind of noticed that, like, though you're certainly not the most prolific swearer that we've had on the podcast, you do use some of the strongest swear words, like at least in terms of their offensive power. And most of these swear words are typically directed towards women as well. So, for instance, like in addition to 8 instances of fuck, we found 3 instances of whore, 6 of bitch, and 3 of cunt, 2 of which directly refer to a sex organ. So are you aware of this pattern? And what do you think the goal is of kind of leaning towards swear words that are typically used against women?
I think, again, it's from the perspective of characters as well. So depending on the song, I can't remember which ones use it. I know, for example, All Hail the Goat says cunt, but that's just in general. That's not directed towards a woman. I'm trying to remember where the lyrics appear, but
I think there's like a devil's cunt somewhere.
I can't even remember my own lyrics, but I know. Sometimes for the swearing, sometimes it's usually it's from the perspective of a character, or to get into the kind of theme of the song, the kind of mindset. For example, the Affair of the Poisons, where the first line is the child is ripped from the womb of the whore. It's kind of what would be said at the time. It's nothing is meant to be offensive or against women in my music whatsoever. It's just to kind of fit the themes, fit the characters, fit the whatever's fit the song, I guess, fit the whatever's going on. And a lot of the times, when fuck is said, for example, a lot of the time it's a good way to get a word in there that fits the syllable count. So it can be a great just something to put in there to give it extra aggression or whatever like that.
I mean,
I just checked.
Sorry. Go ahead, Jess.
I was just going to say, I just checked the instances of cunt, if you're interested. One that you mentioned. So one's from Savage Blasphemy. That's, not necessarily like directly. It doesn't seem to be directed towards women, just because it's crucify the pious cunts and drink the blood that's spilled. But the one referencing like sex organ was 666 serpents rise from the cunt of the beast. which is from
Oh, okay, yeah.
Womb. Yeah.
Yeah, that was just a line that came to me, yeah.
As they do.
Like I say,
Just walking down the street whistling.
Yeah, that was one of those instances where I had an idea for a chorus, and it was just kind of, yeah, that was one that I was like, it seems a bit over the top, it's a bit extreme, but then I thought, yeah, it's black metal, we can do that. Yeah, so yeah.
Like, I mean, to be clear, we're not coming at this from some kind of like moralistic perspective. Like, James, why are there so many naughty words on your music? But like, the use of like cunt in black metal and stuff like that is something you see. The references to especially like female sexual organs, entrails ripped from a virgin's cunt, for instance. I guess like just not to put you on the spot and make you like explain the entire genre, but why do you think it's all that way? Why is there no references like cocks? Just put it bluntly.
I've got a few of those, priests getting tortured and stuff like. Yeah, I don't know, but I've got no idea. But for me, I mean, I'm from Scotland, and so first of all, cunt isn't really a word that is. Yeah. Everyone says it.
A linkage between our cultures, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not as shocking to me. Like, you'll call your friends cunts and stuff like that. It's not really a shocking word to me. So I guess I come at it from a different perspective or different background than a lot of other bands. I don't know.
Well, I think it's just interesting because like cunt is used in the same way in Australia, like you call your mates cunt and stuff like that. That's very common. But what's kind of interesting is though, like I've never seen cunt in an Australian lyric.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for some some bands that, are maybe not worth
well, what bands we wouldn't have on this podcast.
Yeah, bands that wouldn't be on the podcast.
Not worth talking about. Yeah.
True.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just something that I think fits the lyrics. There's no, there's no malicious intent on my part. There's no. I think it, like I say, it fits the characters or it fits the narrative or whatever of the song. There's certainly no. I'm not trying to. Offend everyone or whatever. I'm not trying to do anything like that. It's just, I don't know.
Well, like one thing we also kind of saw in your lyrics is that while there is, definitely some violence against women in the portrayals that kind of follow again, like this, it's nothing new in death metal. Cannibal Corpse is fucked with a knife. Songs like that have been around for decades. But yeah, well, you do have figures in your songs that are the victim of violence and bloody ritual, as in lines like virgins defiled as they beg for their life. And other times, and not unfrequently, the women that appear in your songs are the source of worship, as in speak, O goddess of demise, of secrets untold. Vomit the soul, oh bless us tonight, or even the request, withered hags, sink your claws into me. Was this combination of feminine figures being portrayed like on one song as powerless and another song as extremely or relatively powerful, like an intentional back and forth?
No, this is definitely some analysis here. No, it's like I say, most of my things are basically just it's not that deep. It just depends on the theme of the song. Sometimes it'll be worshipping a goddess or whatever, or an all-powerful witch or whatever, and you're worshipping. Other times, like I say, a lot of it is based on historical stuff. So you've got witch burning and sacrifice and stuff like that. So those are like true events that happened, and there's violence towards everyone, in my music. It just depends on the theme. It just depends on the theme of the song, really. It's not that deep. There's no kind of thought of kind of going back and forth and stuff.
Well, just as you said that, I think it's a good point in the interview now to ask you to prepare yourself with some extremely specific questions about your lyrical style.
Okay, here we go.
Moving forward, we wanted to talk about how you struck this balance between very kind of straightforward monosyllabic lyrics like feel the steel, pierce your flesh, taste the blade, and those with kind of more multisyllabic words, particularly words ending with shun, as in SION, or Asian. So e.g. I found humiliation, fascination, invocation, congregation, possession, obsession, deception, perception, divination, excretion, premonition, confession, ambition, perversion, perdition, temptation, hallucination, convulsion, salvation, damnation, creation, and cessation. Firstly, was this balance of more mono and bisyllabic and multisyllabic intentional? And why do you think you've achieved it through the inclusion of a lot of shun words?
Again, a lot deep. It's not as deep as you think. Literally whatever fits the music is what happens. For example, the feel the steel part, that's just the guitar part just fits that, just the feel the steel, like it just goes with the guitar part, for example. So that works. In the shun kind of lyrics, it's funny hearing everything read out to you. Do you realize how much you do something or whatever? But yeah, I think that's probably just because you can rhyme almost anything, because they all end they all end in a similar way. So I guess you can, if I come up with a line that says obsession, for example, there's then you can just rhyme loads of things with that. That's probably the reason. I've never thought about it. And I think that is a thing in metal as well. I heard people complaining about one of the new Metallica singles because a lot of the words end with shun or something like that.
Really?
Like, this is played out or whatever. And I'm like, it's metal, man. Yeah, I've never thought about it, but yeah.
So you're actually the third band we've talked to, I think, that self-defines as like thrash in any way. And in every single one of them, we found a lot of shuns. Like, and no one said oh, I'm doing it on purpose or anything, but like it's every band that we've talked to that is thrash has a lot of shun. Is it do you feel like it's a thrash thing at all? Like in Metallica, right? That's a thrash band. Like is shun if you were listening to a death metal album or like just a straight up black metal album and there was shun everywhere, would you be like surprised?
I've really never thought of it in general, so it may be everywhere in black and death metal, for example. I've got no idea. I've never thought about it. It was just when you said it there, I saw a comment on the Metallica thing a few months ago, and I thought, okay, fair enough. I would have never noticed it myself. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, it's lyrics, and more often, I mean, metal is not known for the most part for having like groundbreaking lyrics and stuff. Depending on the band, most of the stuff that I listen to, the old school stuff anyway, it's kind of, I think they share similar views to me, that the lyrics kind of fit the music and just whatever comes out comes out, I guess. But yeah, it's interesting for sure. That everyone kind of follows these patterns. Maybe we got it from someone, maybe bands in the past have used these patterns loads, and it's just kind of subconsciously became the thing. I don't know.
Well, something that I think Andrew Hudson of Harlot mentioned was that having a lot of shun words is not only useful for rhyming, which I believe all of the thrash bands that we've interviewed so far do in their lyrics, but also that like they have a repeatable syllabic formula. So it's easier than if you have a really fast melody, then you can fit it to that quite easily. Does that you think play into it?
Yeah, I would absolutely say so. Again, almost every lyric is because of the way that it has to fit in the music. So yeah, just because of the way you can rhyme them and say them kind of da 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 like that. I guess those kind of words are very useful for fast music, especially when you're playing at like 200 BPM. The lyrics are very fast. Sometimes it's very kind of like monosyllabic kind of pronunciation. yeah, it could be that as well. Yeah.
Well, although the language across releases we think is kind of pretty consistent thematically, we did notice that on the latest release, Warlocks Grim Withered Hags, there's the sudden inclusion of a lot of archaic forms, including lots of thou, thine, mine, dost, of modern English, you, your, my, and do, respectively. Perhaps the clearest example of this is in the lyrics for I the Deceiver, which read, Speak, O witches three, why dost thou linger upon this heath? Force thine knowledge and secrets arcane pawn, so upon with a apostrophe, you, me, which we believe are from Macbeth. And then there are the opening lines of Warlocks Grim and Withered Hags, which read, O Prince of Hell, I bow to thee before thine blackened throne. And then in addition to these more regular substitutions, there are occasional one-off archaicisms like betwixt in the abyssal gateway betwixt life and death. So what led you to develop this more archaic language style in the latest album, and what effect do you think it creates for the reader or for listeners?
Yeah, so the main one, as you said, would be I the Deceiver, which is based on Macbeth. So I kind of tried to, I guess, kind of use some kind of Shakespearean kind of language. Not sure how successful it was or not, but I thought it would be something different again. Some of it is quotes, from Macbeth or from the title track Warlocks Grim. Some of it is taken from Address to the Devil by Robert Burns. So a lot of these are kind of based on previous texts, I guess. And I thought it would just add something different. I thought it kind of would be something new, especially when written down. It looks cooler as well. But I thought it would just be cool to try some different things. It kind of adds again to the music. It kind of adds to the kind of feel, kind of just kind of the feel of the music. It's I don't know. It just felt like the right thing to do, I guess.
Why do you think it looks cooler?
I don't know. I guess because it's like less common, a bit more unfamiliar. I think when written down, it looks a bit like makes you look smarter than you actually are. I don't know. Yeah, maybe just because it's different, I guess.
Is there a bit of a goal in metal to kind of like embrace or employ like that which is not familiar, like rather than kind of the day to day?
Sometimes I think it depends what you're referring to. I guess like with themes and stuff, like you mentioned before, it's a lot more. A lot of things are kind of like fantasy horror type stuff. So I guess it's stuff like that. I don't know. A lot of people want to stick to the same thing, especially within kind of the old school metal thing. So I guess it really depends. It's 50-50, depending on what you want to achieve, what you want to listen to, what's in your mind, I guess.
How about if we're speaking purely linguistically?
I'm trying to think. I'm no expert I can't remember my own lyrics, never mind other bands' lyrics. So maybe I couldn't even answer.
Well, just as a thought experiment, like if we were to give you the recording of this interview and you had to make all the lyrics by just copy pasting phrases from this interview instead of from Macbeth or older books, do you think you could get something you'd be happy with?
Okay, yeah. So I guess in terms of like how things are like structured in songs and stuff, I think sometimes words are switched, so like words will be used before or after other words that you would usually use in the opposite way in a normal conversation, just to kind of fit songs and things like that. Some language, I guess, would be used in a song just because either it sounds cool or sounds evil or whatever. I think definitely metal music has lyrics that are, I guess, less familiar than like your kind of pop songs that are based on kind of realism or like modern stuff or whatever. I think in that context,
Well, another consistent element of your language style is your consistent use of the present tense. So this is somewhat surprising because although, many of your songs reference events that occurred definitely in the past, basically all of your lyrics are written as if they're happening in the here and now. So just for an example, your song Annalise references, Annalise Michel's experience of the 67 exorcisms that we mentioned earlier. That was in 1975-76, I believe, which is obviously an event very much in the past. But the lyrics read, tearing the crown of roses from the claws of the priest, delusional diagnosis, a victim in the hands of the beast, out from the fires of hell, 6 demons enter the physical world, possessed by creatures below, decrepit, feeble, and hollow. Annalise Michel, a vessel where the demons dwell. So this is very much kind of written as if it's happening in the here and now. So why do you think you tend to write from the present tense, even when you're writing about the past? And what would be different if these songs were to be written in the past tense?
I've never noticed that, but just thinking on it there, probably, I think it's more effective if written as if it's happening now. It's a bit, especially in the genre of like horror, dark lyrics, it's kind of, I think it's more effective. It's a bit, scarier if things are happening now rather than, this happened 50 years ago or whatever, or this happened however long ago, like hundreds of years ago. I think it's just the style to write it as if, either like first person or if like, as if you're present at the event or as if it's happening to you or something like that. I think it has more of an effect rather than, just kind of describing something that happened randomly however long ago. That's not really a conscious decision, I don't think. I think it's just the way I write. I think, I don't know how it would be different if I wrote it as if it was in the past. Maybe, it would kind of, I think maybe you would have less opportunity to kind of describe, I don't know, like emotions or how you're feeling at the moment. It's kind of, you've got to kind of, this happened and then this happened. It's a bit, I think you can get more description. I think you can get more immersion, I guess, if you write it as if it was in the present, I guess. Maybe.
You've talked a lot about like making the lyrics fit to the music, which of course is very, very kind of a bit vague and very personal. Like what someone feels fits, is going to depend. But do you think that like the present tense fits like the speed of what you're doing, like more than the past would? I guess like maybe like the past is old and slow, like the now is like kind of happening. Is there like, am I just reaching for something that's not here there, or does that like when you talk about for you what it means to fit the music? Does like the present tense fit the speed of what you're doing with the specific kind of thrash speed metal combination?
Again, it's way deeper than than I've ever thought in my life. But maybe, I don't know, maybe, I mean, I can't think, but maybe the words like needed to be used for past tense wouldn't fit as well or something. I don't know. I haven't really given it much thought, but it's not really when I say it has to fit the music, it's mostly if it sounds good. That's basically the main criteria for me, is if the lyrics like kind of sound good within the song. So I've never given it much thought. Maybe after this, when I'm writing it for the next album, I'm going to be like in my own head, like, okay, I remember this was suggested, and then this could be the cause of this. And, maybe we'll see a big difference or something in the new lyrics for things.
Oh no. No, we're just observing. We're not supposed to be.
I know. No, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool hearing this. Like, just because, like I say, it's like, way more deep than I've ever thought about anything. So it's cool hearing like other people's perspective and when it's actually thought about and things like that.
Well, just like all right. So just humor me for a sec. Just a quick thought experiment, right? Just completely reactionary, like instinctual, off the cuff. You have the lyric right that we had earlier. Withered hags, sink your claws into me, right? What if that was withered hags sank their claws into me? Do you think that would affect how it feels or how it matches your music?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're saying it's a lot more.
Oh, no, sorry. Like going from sink to sank.
Oh, sank.
Yeah, sank there, claws into me.
Yeah, it definitely gives off a different kind of vibe. Like, yeah, again, if you're saying sink, it kind of means, yeah, it's happening now. You're kind of, I don't know, like letting it happen now. You're telling them to do it. Yeah, if you say sank, it loses its kind of effect. It's, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it does lose the effect a little bit, or the aggression or something. Yeah, it's definitely different, I think. And I think, the present tense does fit better, does work better. Well, to my ear anyway, and to my mind.
Well, one slight difference that we observed across your lyrics for the 3 albums is that the first album presents a pretty strong preference for the first person perspective, with about 22 I's, 16 we's. And then your use of pronouns drops off significantly on the second album with only 6 I's and 3 we's. But then it goes back up to 16 I's and 4 we's on your latest release. So firstly, why do you think there were these kind of shifts in your uptake and rejection of the first person perspective?
I think it probably depends on the themes or the actual song topics. For the first one, it was kind of more. The second one was kind of based a lot on like historical events and stuff, and so I was probably referring to, other people, like from other people's perspectives. Whereas, on the new album, it's kind of a lot of is kind of taking the perspective of those people. So like saying I, as if I was in the story myself. Whereas, the other ones the second one was probably me saying this happened, they did this. Again, not a conscious decision, maybe just the way I was writing at the time, maybe just the way that maybe the lyrics I was reading, or like from other bands, maybe the lyrics that I was, influenced by at the time were written in a certain way or something. But I notice I use like I quite a lot and stuff, but maybe it dropped down just because of that. Again, not a conscious decision, but it's cool to hear that that things have changed throughout the albums. It's not all the same.
Well, following on to this, like, even if there are instances where there is more I and we, there are still times where it's not like heavily used, and there are lots of songs with almost no pronouns in them. So, for instance, Poison Womb begins with the lines, lament the dearly departed, bleed for the gods, the shadow of damnation's horns threatens the madness behind the veil, lick the life from the wounds one by one, light the flame, for the rite has begun, a theater of phantoms where devilry shall be revealed, speak, O goddess of demise, of secrets untold, vomit the soul, O bless us tonight. So only the us perspective is introduced at the very, very end. Even if it's not intentional, right? Even if it wasn't like, if it was just kind of happened, what do you feel is kind of the effect of writing in this way that typically reduces the visibility of the first person until later? And how does it differ from when you write a song that starts with and kind of keeps that I perspective throughout?
Yeah, I mean, I literally have no idea, man. It's just the way I wrote the song. It's just not, there's not much thought goes into it in that kind of way. I mean, I'm just trying to read the lyrics here for myself because, like I say, I struggle to remember, especially off the top of my head. But I don't know. It's just whatever fits the song. I've not really put thought into it, so I couldn't tell you what my thinking was there. It was, it sounded good, and then I probably needed something to fit the song. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's all right.
I mean, do you think anything would change if you used like I to a level that you might deem excessive? Like if like every second line had an I in it, which is certainly, not what we saw in your lyrics. Like, do you think that like the tone of those lyrics would be different?
Yeah, I think so. I do. try not to repeat myself too much, unless it's kind of like a stylistic choice, like if each line was like, I do this, I do this, I do this, like a stylistic kind of choice. I do try and not repeat myself too much, though it does happen. But I think maybe sometimes it would, with any kind of repetition, it can work in its favor or work against it. Just, it can either become boring or tedious or whatever, or it can kind of enhance things just by the way it's structured, I think. It really depends. Again, I think each song or each piece of writing or whatever depends on how it's used. It depends on the context, depends on the final result, depends on the amount, the amount of lines and things like that. I think, it really depends on a case by case basis, I think.
Have you ever, while editing your lyrics, have you ever changed perspective? Like, for instance, when discussing an act of violence, have you ever been like, oh, maybe it started with I, and then you're like, oh, maybe actually I don't want to say that I did this, even though, it's obviously not you in the song?
Yeah, possibly. There is a lot of changes that happen with the lyrics. So if it was in that case, it would probably be because the overall perspective has changed or something, or something later on has came in and have said, okay, this part can't be like this. This is first person. The rest of the song isn't, like, or whatever. So yeah, I think maybe I do change a lot of lyrics depending on, as I go through the lyrics, and maybe I use words in different contexts. I want to, or repeat the same words. I try and like change the word. Like I'll try and use less repetition, or I'll find something else that fits or something like that. So there are changes that get made, but none that I can remember explicitly were changing like the perspective deliberately for whatever reason.
But there is a conscious effort to have kind of a consistent perspective. Like you don't just pop the lyrics out and say, all right, that's enough. Like, it's fine. Like you do go back and review them and try to like make them all kind of work as a consistent whole.
Oh yeah. Like I do take the lyrics seriously. Like no matter what I might have said or whatever impression I may be giving off, I do try and make them the best they can be. And I do try and do some different things. I do try and make them fit well. I do try and make them read well, sound good, use like words that fit and things. I do take it seriously in that respect. I want everything to be as good as they possibly can be. That's about it. There's not really a conscious decision to go in a certain perspective. I try and make everything sound good no matter what. It's not really a perspective thing. Just as long as everything fits the song, as everything flows well, as long as the lyrics make sort of sense, I guess. And they fit the song. That's kind of what's important to me. Because, like I say, it's music first, but the lyrics I do think are an important part of it, especially, when it gets to, for example, like, a chorus or something. I think a song, or even verses, but chorus as an example, because it's the main part of the song, like the main sing-along part, if you will. Like, I think the language used or the words used or phrases or whatever are important, for people to sing along with. Sometimes I like to, sometimes it's overcomplicated, but for a lot of like choruses and stuff, for All Hail the Goat, it's very simple. You can sing along, you can chant along. It's very kind of basic, whereas if you have choruses where it's a bit overcomplicated, there are loads of words, which I do sometimes, but it's harder to sing along. Sometimes it makes the song less catchy. You know, people identify with certain phrases or the way that things are said or something like that. So that does play a big part in how I construct some lyrics as well. You know, I think for the most part, not every song, but I try to have a catchy, relatively simple chorus or a relatively sing along part or whatever, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that desire for a catchiness and like the fans to kind of know your lyrics and maybe even sing them like live? Do you think that's a consequence of genre? Like, you know, when you think of say brutal death metal or technical death metal, or even classic black metal, like catchiness is not, you know, if you like metal, it's catchy, but like it's not supposed to be about catchiness, right? It's supposed to be about being dark and grim. But like in thrash, like it seems to be a bit more of that. Do you think that's like a genre thing, or am I overthinking boundaries?
Yeah, I think anywhere where there's thrash is anywhere where it's kind of a bit more melodic or a bit, you know, with like brutal death metal and stuff, it's kind of about, like you say, the brutality first and things. But with a lot of speed metal and thrash and stuff, the best stuff I find is focused on the song or something or something like that. So it's like, it does. The catchiness is very important to me. For example, I love all music, like pop music, like the Beatles and the Doors. I love all kinds of music. On this album, for example, there was so much non-metal or kind of outside influences, I guess, on the music, and I guess I listen to so much of that I think of songs kind of in that perspective, you know, like I'll be listening to, I don't know, the Beatles or the Manic Street Preachers or something or whatever. And I'll think, how can I do that in a context that's in a speed metal context? That how can I, you know, and that's sometimes a fun challenge, you know, just trying to, you know, you'll hear something cool in a Beatles song or Elvis or something, and you think, okay, that's cool how he's done that. How can I put that in a 200 beats per minute black metal screaming context, you know? So it's sometimes a fun challenge, but it's, for songwriting, I do focus on, I want a catchy song. I want a song that you can that you'll recognize that, a lot of times each song is different, of course, but like for the most part, it's if you can kind of sing along with it, both in terms of the riffs, like if you remember the music, if you remember the riffs, and if you remember the chorus, for example. So, I try and, keep everything as catchy as possible. And that also goes down to like the structure of songs as well, you know, however many repetitions you have of the chorus, where the chorus comes in, if there's a bridge, how, you know, just like all that random stuff. I think just trying to make a good song, memorable song is the most important part to me.
Well, we said earlier that we'd put a pin in the discussion of the Scottish themes in your current album, and so we're going to do that now.
Because, we'll take it out.
Yeah, we'll take it out. So, obviously then Warlocks Grim Withered Hags does have a kind of distinctly Scottish theming, which is present from the very first song. So the noteworthy, which describes a creature by the same name that's originally based in the Northern Isles, which is a demon with both human and equine features. And then following on, Warlocks Grim Withered Hags is based on Shakespeare's Macbeth that we kind of mentioned. And, Macbeth is, once King of Scotland. And the music for this song, I believe, also features bagpipes. And the next song, Goat Vomit Nightmare, describes an ancient Scottish ritual of Taghiam, which involves performing an animal sacrifice in exchange for divination. Then Curse Carry On Crown references Sawney Bean, a Scottish clan leader in the 16th century who Ered cannibalized like 1,000 people. Then The Hissing Marshes is based on things like the Kelpies and the Balban Sith. Sorry about my pronunciation, which are kinds of shape-shifting creatures. Babanshee. Babanshee. Okay, thank you. Which are kinds of shape-shifting creatures that seduce people and drag them underwater. And then finally, Mester Storworm is a song which, like the first on the album, which describes a creature of the same name originating in the Northern Isles folklore, and which is described as a giant evil sea serpent. So in discussing these kind of folkloric references and stories in other interviews, you've said that you were drawn to these themes after moving away from the city a few years ago and being surrounded by the landscapes of the Highlands. So can you tell us more about this kind of connection between your exploration of Scottish folklore and history and your connection to the Highlands?
Yeah, so I lived in Aberdeen for like the city of Aberdeen, like kind of like in the main city for however long, 23 years, something like that. I can't remember. 23 years. So I was kind of always, surrounded by grey granite and just cars and, just a city and like a grey city. So I've always been one that I've never thought that environment really influences me at all. I've never really been influenced by my environment or that's never had an effect on my music. However, I moved up to the Highlands in, I think, 2019, maybe? Yeah, 2019. And yeah, it's very different. It's just mountains and the landscapes, it's just mountains and lochs and stuff like that everywhere. And it's just more nature in general. And it kind of got me thinking, it kind of got me inspired by this kind of Scottish element. And I thought maybe there's some way I could explore the Scottish element with Hellripper. And so I started looking into some, folklore and some historical events that I had either heard of, kind of briefly or learned a little bit about in school or whatever. And I thought maybe I'd have one or two songs, based on Scottish folklore. I've already done that on previous releases with Vampire's Grave and Black Arts and Alchemy. So I thought maybe I'll get some more of these kind of Scottish based songs. But yeah, after looking into it and reading a lot, and I discovered there was so much stuff, like so much things that could be explored and so much things that I could use for Hellripper, so much the darker side of things. I'm not going to speak about like William Wallace and stuff. That doesn't fit like Hellripper, like, kind of that kind of stuff. I wanted the more kind of, the witchcraft or devil type stuff, after reading, I thought, well, there's so much to explore that I thought it would be cool to have a concept, I guess, for the album. So the album, it doesn't share a story, but every song is connected through being based on Scotland in some form. Like you just mentioned there, whether it be from creatures like the Nuckelavee or the Macbeth or Sonny Bean or whatever. I thought it'd be cool. Again, something a bit different. I wanted to explore, the music was kind of taking a different turn. I was being more influenced by different things. I was kind of trying some new things. And I thought maybe the lyrics could reflect that. So I have a different kind of topic, but still that fits Hellripper. So like I said, it's still evil and spirits and witchcraft and all of that kind of stuff. I thought would kind of fit, give me something a bit different, make it a bit more interesting for myself as well, inspire me a bit more. And yeah, it was really fun, kind of doing that, exploring something that isn't too common other than outside of a few, songs or a few bands. Especially in the black speed genre, there's not a lot of Scottish themed stuff. So I thought it would be cool to just try something different, I guess.
Well, interestingly, we've spoken to several lyricists, some quite recently, based in New Zealand and Australia, who have similar experiences drawing lyrical inspiration from like physical landscapes and like natural environments that surround them. And often this is in the context of kind of expressing like some kind of reverence for nature or a desire to protect it. And so we wanted to ask your opinion, like, why do you think that metal, like a genre that, others often view as being kind of focused on death and destruction, ends up being quite focused or transfixed on kind of the beauty of nature and like the concern for its preservation and its connection to, you know, stories and folklore and all of these kinds of things.
I to be honest, I don't know, but yeah, it's, I mean, I think, I don't know when it started, but I know a lot of, you know, black metal, it's come from like a lot of Norwegian, and then it's kind of went to a lot of the Icelandic bands. I know a lot of the English bands do, you know, like kind of the more atmospheric stuff based on the nature and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know where it started. Probably Norway. Maybe it was done before that in thrash or something. I'm not too sure. I don't know the origins of the kind of theme, but yeah, I've got no idea. I think, yeah, I've got no idea, to be honest with you. It's just, yeah, it's kind of a funny, yeah, it's, I don't know. Yeah, for me, I just think the nature, like nature and all of that, you know, you get all the folk tales from it, and you get all the interesting legends and mythology and stuff like that. I think so. That's interesting to me about it, and I think it's great. But yeah, I think, yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure in general.
Well,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, moving kind of back to language choice, we noticed in addition to references to Scottish folklore and history, your lyrics also feature forms of Scottish or Scottish English, Scottish variety of English. For instance, you have, and again, apologies if I mispronounce these, but mither for mother, mither, kirkyard for churchyard, bray, steep bank or hillside, widdershins for anti-clockwise, boggle for a Scottish ghost, and sorry, did I butcher that one?
No, bogle.
Oh,
yeah,
bogle. Okay.
Yeah.
I know that because I'm a nerd, and they are magic cards. So then also there are many uses of apostrophe o in place of, as in devil o' the sea and end of days, which could be archaic as mentioned earlier, but we also felt were references to Scottish pronunciation at times. Why did you include a few forms of Scottish English, and like what effect do you think they have on the overall feel of these songs? Especially, you know, traditionally metal has had kind of a English from nowhere sort of, you know, like the genre
international English,
international English, which of course tends to look like American, but there has been, you know, there's more and more metal being made around the world. There's, you know, bands like Alien Weaponry singing in you know, Aboriginal New Zealand languages. You got bands like Chthonic singing in Taiwanese. Do you view yourself as part of this kind of like, is there a desire to internationalize and metal and represent like your variety of language in the music that you make on a global stage?
A little bit. Again, a lot of the language used there, like the Scottish language, for example, the mither of the sea and like stuff like that, is based on like what things are actually called. You know, like the mither of the sea. Using o, yeah, like I say, it can be a reference to like old language, or it can be, that's how we would pronounce, or how I would pronounce a lot of words, you know, just o instead of. So it's, yeah, correct in terms of that, both a reference to kind of both. But yeah, I think I use the words mainly in the context. I think it's important for the, in context, you know, it's similar with why I use the bagpipes in one of the tracks. It's, it depends on the context. It would make, I feel like it wouldn't make a lot of sense for me to kind of use full Scottish language or full Scottish like pronunciations like for no reason. Just why I didn't use the bagpipes for no reason. Like I wanted to use them in a song that tied with the lyrical themes, like tied with so the bagpipes work because it's a Scottish song, like a Scottish based song lyrically. And I use the words or pronunciations or whatever because the tracks are Scottish, and because the creatures referred to are called whatever they're called, like with Scottish names and things like that. So I think it depends on the context. There have been a few people saying like they've learned like some stuff, from the album, like whether it just be like some Scottish words or whether it be like about, like the Knuckle of V, for example, like they'd never heard that and they think it's cool or whatever. So it's cool to get some of these Scottish things out there to people that have never heard of them before and things like that. But it wasn't like the main aim of mine. Again, the main aim was just to kind of fit the music, kind of get everything, just kind of make the best songs possible and do something a little bit interesting and different to what I usually do. And yeah, it's cool that people are telling me, like, oh, I never heard of, the Stoorworm or whatever. And it's cool to hear people say like they've actually, I guess, like learned something from my screaming, my rambling and my screaming. It's cool to hear people that can actually learn something.
Have you ever considered writing a full song in Scots or Scottish Gaelic?
I don't speak Gaelic, so I think it would be a bit kind of disingenuous. I think it would be a bit, that would be a bit maybe going too far, trying to like pretend I'm something I'm not or something, and sometimes, I don't know, sometimes the Scottish words, it's why everyone, like Scottish singers and stuff, sing like with an American accent or whatever, because I think we've just been trained to hear things sound a bit different, like don't fit properly, So, I mean, there are people that sing in their Scottish accent and they're great, obviously they're great, but in general, I mean, I think we've been kind of conditioned to hear the English or American kind of accent as the standard. So even for me, so it would be kind of difficult for me to, I think, write and sing in Scottish, just because of the way I've been, like, all the music I like and everything I'm influenced by sounds the way it does. But I'm not ruling it out. Because even, just being like dealing, like me in general, for example, now I don't think my accent's too strong at the moment. Whereas, like if I'm speaking with my family or something, my accent is a lot stronger. I'll use words that I would never use like to non-Scottish people, just because because obviously you wouldn't understand like the slang and stuff. And just because of the nature of what I do, I'm a musician. I deal with people from all over the world. I've got to make sure they can understand me when I speak, and I need to, so I kind of tone down my accent and and I tone down the slang and the Scottishness so that people can actually understand me. So I think, we'll see. I will never say never to doing anything in a song, really, but as long as it fits, as long as it's not, doing something for the sake of it. I don't want to just be like, oh, this is Scottish just to try and like impress people or something or whatever. It's got to fit the song. It's got to be good, and anything other than that is like a kind of like a bonus,
I was going to ask, just like, because you're saying that a lot of the Scottish words that you've included because like they represent the name of a thing, like you said, you mentioned the Stoorworm. Okay, so that's its name. What about in terms of other words like bray and kirkyard? Like in the lyric, like if you want a specific example, warlocks in the kirkyards conspire with death, or eyes on the bray, sin guides this way. Like why particularly like those words?
Yeah, so kirkyard, that I believe, if that's from the Warlocks, the title track, and that is a word used in the poem as well. Okay. If I remember correctly, so that is why that's used. Although, yeah, I would say that, and it's not too, it's not too out there. I think you can still kind of I think you can still kind of guess that it's a churchyard. But yeah, Bray, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of an outlier. I thought it was just the first lyric that came to my head. Mm-hmm. And I thought, so yeah, I just used that just because, yeah, it came to my head and it fit what I was doing. And I never really put too much thought into it other than that. So that is one instance of something I used kind of, a Scottish word just for the context of the track, and no quotations or no, previous use of the word or whatever. It was just something that it felt right to say, I guess.
So, I mean, are you pushing back against like the dominance of, I guess, like American English style lyrics in metal at all intentionally, or even if it wasn't intentional, when you look at your lyrics now for this latest album, like, is part of you kind of happy to see parts of your variety represented in the genre explicitly?
Not really. It's not. I'm not really. I'm not really trying to push against any like language being used. It was just the way that the songs came out and the way that I was writing at the time, I guess. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me how the songs are written. It's just how I was writing them, I guess, at the time. But yeah, it is cool, I guess, to see people seeing Scottish words or seeing Scottish related things in metal, I guess. I mean, there are other bands doing it, of course, but I think it was cool to kind of do that. But yeah, I'm not saying I'm never gonna sing in like normal, like regular English or whatever. I'll be doing that again, of course. It's just a stylistic choice, I guess, for some of the tracks, and just the way that some of the tracks came out. They just sounded better with that style to me, or better with certain words to me, or whatever. So it's not really a conscious decision to go against anything, really.
So just to make sure I'm getting this right, like, so there was no intent to put it out there, and like, you're not like, oh yeah, I'm glad it's out, like Scottish is out there on the stage. But when fans are engaging with the Scottish lyrics, you do find that to be a source of satisfaction?
Yeah. So it's, I mean, I think I'm a musician first of all, like most of all. So my only goal really is to make a good song that people enjoy. But then, yeah, when people learn something or whatever from a track that I write, yeah, of course, it's really cool to hear that I've, inspired something, or I've taught them something they didn't know, like not in detail or anything, but like, just people may take an interest in learning about this stuff, just based on a song or whatever. So it's cool in that way. But yeah, my only goal really is to make a good song, and anything that comes with that is just, is a bonus, I guess.
Well, another pattern we looked at was your use of rhyme and alliteration, because you don't use either constantly, but both appear on every album. So, for instance, we can see rhymes like, we summon forth our master, our savior, baptize us in the name of the goat. We bring you, the newborn, the sweet sinful blood, and we drink the life straight from its throat. And insidious, lascivious, they spurn the words of Christ, the mass of the nefarious upon this bloody night. Iniquitous, ubiquitous, spread evil like disease, haggard and cadaverous. But then also you have rhymes like spellbound, willing, the grotesque divine, the grip of the devil, the abyssal gateway betwixt life and death, beckons the vessel, the hand's feeble grasp in ecstasy ravaged, coiled in serpents, the pale kiss enchanting, the spell adrift, the water's lament. So then we see kind of like alliteration, particularly in song titles like Conduit Closing and The Curse Carrying Crown. So what appeals to you about this use of rhyme and alliteration, like independently and in combination? And how do you decide, when to include it and when to, leave it aside?
Yeah, I think especially with the alliteration for like song titles and things, I think it's cool. I think it rolls off the tongue like really well, just The Cursed Carrying Crown. It kind of sounds, I think it just sounds cool mainly. That's mostly everything I do is either because it sounds cool or whatever. So yeah, it's the same with the rhyming in that way. It if it fits the song, and it's just the way my vocal style is. Especially with like the what was it, Insidious Lascivious, I can't remember
Insidious Lascivious,
yeah, that's from Hexanat, I think. Yeah, it's just the way you say those words, it kind of the way you can say those words, like the ones that the way that I say it on the song, it's like a cool, it's hard to describe. It's just the way that I'm able to say certain words, and the way that certain words and certain rhymes fit with the music. Again, everything comes down to just fitting with the music and sounding cool in the context. So, again, like with alliteration and stuff, that can sound really cool in the context, depending on the alliteration. You know, if it's like if it's S's or if it's C's or something like that, it can sound cool. I think that's the two most common ones I use. Yeah, they just roll off the tongue really well, I think, especially the alliteration. And like I say, it's always good to have a catchy title or, you know, catchy chorus, catchy lyrics. And I think they just kind of add to that. They add to the memorability of the track. They add to the catchiness. They add to the, it's just, again, it just depends on context for me, really, the way that it's said and stuff.
Well, I guess to kind of, you know, take all this and bring it together, to finish up, speaking broadly, what would you say is the role of lyrics ultimately in Hellripper's music? And what about in extreme metal more broadly?
For Hellripper, and I think in extreme metal more broadly as well. I mean, I don't want to generalize, but I think lyrics often play, again, I don't like saying secondary, but I feel like they often complement the music. I think they're, more often than not, they're used to complement the music more than the music is made to complement them. Because for the most part, you know, the lyrics are not, in Hellripper's case, and in a lot of, you know, like bands in a similar style to me, the lyrics are not personal. You know, they're not personal. They're not political. They're not, you know, I'm not trying to get a belief across or an agenda or anything. So they're secondary to the music. Of course, there are bands that focus on lyrics first and politics and stuff like that. But in general, I think in extreme metal, it's the vocals and lyrics are kind of used as an additional instrument to kind of just go along with the music. So I do think it's great when there are lyrics that are well written. You know, some bands write amazing lyrics, and people are like, lyricists can tell great stories, and like they're genius. For example, like for Danny Filth, I think from Cradle of Filth, an amazing lyricist. Trevor from Black Dahlia was an amazing lyricist.
For sure.
Just two off the top of my head. I mean, both are very good storytellers. They use both big influences on me as well. You know, like the language they use, you know, words like uncommon words and stuff like that. Like, just really good at what they do. So I think it really depends on. Yeah, it really depends on the band, the style. But yeah, for me, the lyrics complement the music and fit with the music. And I would say, for the most part, that's kind of what it's like in extreme metal as well. Though, yeah, it always helps, you know, when you've got like the two guys I just mentioned there. You know, they're separate. They're vocalists and lyricists. And then they have like the bands that do the music. So like the lyricist and the lyrics and the vocals are kind of their stamp on the music as well. So it's always great when you've got someone like that, you know, who's able to, you know, treat the lyrics like it's their instrument, that it's their like songwriting tool. What I mean, I don't know if I'm sounding weird.
No, it makes total sense. Yeah.
For me, yeah, like I keep saying, like the music is my thing. I'm not the best. I wouldn't say I'm the best lyricist. I wouldn't say I'm the best storyteller or anything, So the lyrics kind of aren't as natural to me as the music would be, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So like not to complete thought experiment. You can just answer even just yes or no. But say you were in a band that had like a full lineup, and you were just doing vocals. Do you think that would like drastically change how you approach?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, because it would give me kind of more like, I wouldn't need to focus. If someone else was writing the music, I would I would develop the craft of lyric writing, and I would, focus all my energy on like solely lyrics, solely writing and solely coming up with stories and stuff like that. I mean, I don't want to diminish and say that my lyrics are awful. And that
no implication there either. So,
No.
But I think, I think it's just in general, if you only have one thing to focus on, like all your energy on, I think you'll probably develop your skills more if you're just focusing on, the one thing. Whereas, the music is the one thing that I really want to focus on. So like, writing songs and stuff is what I really want to focus on. And the lyrics, I do put a great deal of effort into them, but I don't think they're, again, I hate saying secondary, but they're secondary to the music for me. I feel like in extreme metal in general, the music is more what people recognize as what people listen to rather than the lyrics, I think, in general.
Sure. I mean, some of the metal bands. Oh, sorry, Jess.
Now you got it.
Just like, there are metal bands with no vocals, but I don't know any metal bands with no instruments.
Yeah, for example, for me, I'm not a big fan of instrumental music. I always love it when there's vocals. However, the lyrics kind of come secondary to the vocals as well. You know what? I think a good pattern, a catchy vocal, comes first, and then for me, the lyrics will come after that. So as long as it's catchy, as long as it sounds good, the lyrics will come after that. So, but yeah, but I am a fan. I am a fan of great lyrics. I'm a fan of, like I mentioned, like say Trevor or whatever. I'm a massive fan of what they write. It's just not what I focus on myself, because I'm more a musically minded person, I guess. The lyrics, I guess, were always kind of a necessity because it's a one-man band, so even vocals itself was kind of a necessity, because it's a one-man band. So I only started doing vocals because no one else was there.
Well, it's interesting you say that, though, because on the other hand, whilst what you're saying is entirely consistent with what we've heard many times of people in metal saying that the music is primary and then the lyrics are secondary, and in whatever sense you kind of choose to read that. But on the other hand, if we actually look at what people are actually writing, in terms of their actual lyrical content, we're seeing an enormous amount of research. We're seeing language that's certainly different from the everyday, that evidences wide reading, even scholarship in some instances. And otherwise, are certainly not what we would say are kind of simple lyrics, if you can even kind of define what simple lyrics are. On the other hand, I think it'd be much easier to classify the majority of lyrics that we've seen, not just on this podcast, but just out in the world, as being highly complex, highly sophisticated. So I guess what I'm kind of asking about and kind of commenting on here is this kind of disconnect or dichotomy between people in metal often saying that the lyrics are secondary to the music, but in practice actually putting an enormous amount of effort into the lyrical content. So why do you think that is?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I say, I think I just want everything to be the best it can be. And so writing really good lyrics is a part of that. It's just, I think for example, having great lyrics, but a bad song, I'm never going to listen to that,
Right.
But if I have if I have a great song with bad lyrics, I'm going to listen to that. So I think the lyrics just kind of enhance the experience. If the lyrics are amazing and very well written, it just enhances the song, I think. And it's like I say, I put a lot of effort and I try really hard with the lyrics. I try and make everything be as best it can be. It's just I feel that, yeah, the music comes first to me. Like I said, just kind of having good lyrics enhances the experience. And yeah, most people do put a lot of, thought and effort into the lyrics, just because they want it to be the best it can be. But I think, yeah, for a lot of, especially in like extreme metal, where a lot of times you can't understand the lyrics anyway. You've got to read the lyrics to understand them. Like you can't, with the screaming and stuff, you can't understand what people are saying sometimes. That's why it's kind of secondary, because you can't, unless you kind of focus a lot, or unless you read the lyrics and stuff, you can't tell if, a lot of times you can't tell if the lyrics are ridiculous or awful or good. So I think that's why they come secondary in extreme metal for the most part, just because the lyrics are less prominent. They're less audible, I guess. But yeah, everyone I know, or most people I know and me, like, you want to write good lyrics. You want to do the best you can. But yeah, me being musically minded, the music is the main focus. Yeah, a lot of metal lyrics are very well written, and it's very, like you learn new words. Even going back to like, for example, I don't know, like Slayer, back in the 80s, they used like words that, you would never, that you don't know what they mean and stuff. You have to like look them up, and you're like, wow, this is an evil word. Yeah, this is cool. I've never heard that used before and stuff like that. So yeah, I think, yeah, like I say, good lyrics will enhance everything. Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. This has been like really interesting. Yeah, it's been really great to talk to you. Appreciate coming on.
Thank you. I've learned more about my lyrics here and more about what's going on than I've ever thought. Yeah,
that's always the aim. Yeah.
It's very interesting when my view being like purely like non-analytical whatsoever, just kind of something, and then someone tells you what you're doing. It's always interesting to hear what you're actually doing.
Well, yeah, when we emailed you and you said like, I don't think about lyrics that much, and then we looked at like, we're both going like, I don't believe him, because like there's just so much to talk about.
Yeah. When you said that, I thought, yeah, we're gonna get like a 10-minute conversation. I've got no idea what you could possibly explore, but yeah, there are maybe a little bit more things going on than I realized.
We'll set up an interview with animals as leaders or something and get that 10-minute episode done.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we should also ask, for any of our listeners and stuff who want to kind of explore more of your music, where's the best place to go for all of that?
So the Hellripper Bandcamp page, which is hellripper.bandcamp.com, or you can go on Spotify and all the streaming places like that. Just wherever you listen to music, really. Type in Hellripper and it should come up.
And is there anything, like this is obviously, as we mentioned at the beginning, we're recording a bit in advance, so it'll come out later in the year, but do you have anything that's in the works that people can look forward to? Or is, you're on a little bit of a break?
Yeah, we just announced a European tour in January, February with Abath and Toxic Holocaust.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's dope. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing, I think it's like 36 days or something in Europe for that. I'm working on a new single or two to try and release next year at some point while I'm working on the next album, because that'll take a little longer. And then, next in summer 2024, we're going to be doing a bunch of festivals and doing a small tour around Europe again. Primarily UK and Europe based for now. And we'll get to Australia and the US and stuff eventually when we get things sorted and when we're kind of available, because we're doing more and more each year that it's kind of difficult to kind of plan other stuff. But just follow the Instagram or the Facebook or whatever, and you can usually see me posting about whatever is going on, whatever's coming up. And yeah.
Well, I'm very excited to hear you're coming to Australia. That'll be great.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to make it happen. We've been in talks for ages about it, but it's just it's never been doable, never available, never the right time or whatever. So hopefully we can make it happen soon enough. I want to get everywhere. I want to get over there, especially.
Sweet.
Sick.
Cool. Yeah, well, thanks again. This was really great. Really fun interview for us. And I hope, you've enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
Even if every second answer was you're thinking about this and a level that
we're thinking about it too much,
Yeah. No, but it was interesting. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate that.
Cool. Cheers.
No worries.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you for listening to Lingua Brutalica. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you stay tuned for our next episode. Before we leave, we just wanted to acknowledge that this podcast is recorded on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay respects to their elders, past and present.